It was just after midnight on a July night in 1997. A quiet street in Southern California, one of those neighborhoods where nothing ever seemed to happen, suddenly became the scene of something terrible. A car pulled over to the side of the road. Then, out of nowhere, gunshots shattered the silence. A man ran, desperate to escape, but within seconds, he collapsed. When police arrived, they found a shocking scene: a body lying on the ground, a woman sitting by the car, and a story that didn't add up. This was no random attack. It was part of something much bigger, something planned long before that night. Bruce Cleland was born on March 31st, 1954, in South Pasadena, California. He grew up in an affluent neighborhood with his older sister, surrounded by comfort and opportunity. Both of his parents were highly educated and financially secure, with family wealth stretching back generations. From the outside, the Clelands seemed the picture of success: accomplished parents, well-raised children, and a bright future. From an early age, Bruce showed remarkable intelligence. But as he entered his teenage years, he quickly learned that brilliance alone did not shield him from cruelty. In 1968, he began attending South Pasadena High School, where his appearance and mannerisms made him a target. He was often teased and given the nickname Tiny Tim, after the eccentric entertainer known for his high-pitched voice and unusual stage presence. For Bruce, the nickname was more than a jab at his slight build and soft voice. It reflected how others saw him: gentle, awkward, and easy to overlook. Instead of lashing out, Bruce coped by laughing at himself. He rarely defended himself or showed anger, and his passive nature left him vulnerable. Shyness defined much of his high school years. He had no romantic relationships, kept to himself, and seemed fragile in the eyes of his peers. Yet behind this exterior was a young man with wit, humor, and loyalty. He made a few close friends who appreciated his sharp mind and gentle personality. At home, his parents, especially his father, Harold Cleland, were his strongest supporters. Bruce and Harold shared a close bond, often attending air shows and football games together, moments that gave Bruce a sense of belonging and stability. Though dating intrigued him, Bruce's lack of confidence kept him on the sidelines. He believed rejection was inevitable, so he rarely tried. Instead, he immersed himself in academics, finding joy and comfort in science and technology. Physics, mathematics, and computers became his world, and his dedication paid off. By the time he graduated in June 1972, he stood out as one of the strongest students in his class. His next step was Harvey Mudd College in Claremont, California, one of the nation's top science and engineering schools. There, Bruce experimented with social life: beer, parties, new friendships, but never let distractions interfere with his studies. 4 years later, in June 1976, he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree. His hunger for knowledge drove him further, and he earned a master's degree from Stanford University in 1978. With his education complete, Bruce launched his career. He began working at General Electric in San Jose, California. The job paid well, and he quickly became financially comfortable. Unlike many peers, Bruce didn't chase luxury or romance. He lived simply and quietly, saving as much money as possible. Later, he joined TRW as a software engineer, working on highly technical projects, some classified for the U.S. military. In 1987, he relocated to Redondo Beach as part of a company transfer. By then, Bruce was earning over $100,000 a year, a substantial salary for the time. But his lifestyle remained modest. Known for driving older, unremarkable cars, he showed little interest in appearances or luxury. Practicality mattered more than status. He funneled his income into savings, stocks, and careful investments, steadily growing his fortune. Colleagues admired his discipline and frugality. Every decision, financial or personal, reflected his thoughtful, methodical character. By the 1990s, Bruce was well into his 30s. The shy young man who once bore the weight of high school ridicule no longer had reason to feel self-conscious. Yet when it came to love, he still seemed blocked. Years of solitude and inexperience left him unsure of himself in matters of the heart. But that was about to change. In late 1995, Bruce met a woman who would transform his life, Rebecca Salcedo. Their encounter happened at a swap meet where Rebecca was selling spices. For Bruce, who had never been much of a dater, the moment was striking. He was instantly captivated by her charm and beauty. Unsure how to approach her, he asked if she might be interested in a job at an IT company. Rebecca played along, handing him her resume. Not long after, Bruce called her, and their relationship began. From the start, Rebecca's intentions seemed unusually direct. Within a week, she suggested marriage. For Bruce, who had never received such attention before, it felt overwhelming and flattering. He agreed, stepping into his first relationship with wide-eyed hope. Rebecca wasted no time introducing him to her family and her 5-year-old son. She explained she had no contact with the boy's father and didn't know who he was. She quickly leaned on Bruce for support, complaining about her living situation. Eager to help, Bruce rented her an apartment, furnished it, covered expenses, and bought her a car. First a used Honda, then a new Toyota, after some persuasion. For Rebecca, gifts flowed easily. For Bruce, who had spent years saving diligently, providing for her felt like an expression of love. He wanted to give her everything she asked for: a boat, cosmetic surgery, jewelry. Naive in romance, Bruce believed he had found a woman of principles. Rebecca insisted she wanted to wait until after marriage for physical intimacy, which Bruce took as a sign of strong moral character. She claimed she had only ever been with one man, her child's father. To Bruce, that made her special, worth protecting, and worth every sacrifice. When it came to the engagement ring, Rebecca took her time. Eventually, she selected an extravagant diamond worth $10,000, an amount Bruce, though cautious with money elsewhere, willingly spent. But the spending didn't end there. Rebecca wanted a spacious home near Los Angeles. Bruce purchased a 4-bedroom house valued at $350,000, an enormous sum in the mid-1990s. Their civil wedding was held in October 1996. But Rebecca dreamed of a grand church wedding, one with all the extravagance she felt she deserved. That ceremony was planned for January 1997. Until then, she suggested she and her son move into the new house while Bruce stayed behind until the church wedding. Believing her, Bruce agreed, convinced this was a tradition rooted in love and respect. In truth, Rebecca had quickly learned how to exploit his innocence and eagerness to please. To Bruce, this was his first taste of real romance. To Rebecca, it was an opportunity. She knew he had no experience with women, no frame of reference for manipulation, and that he was deeply flattered by the affection of a younger, attractive partner. What he interpreted as love, she treated as leverage. But who was Rebecca Salcedo really? Her story began long before she met Bruce. Rebecca's mother, Lucy, had grown up in Mexico. As a young woman, she suffered abuse that led to pregnancy. Pressured by family to marry her abuser to avoid shame, she entered a doomed marriage marked by unhappiness and financial struggles. Eventually, the family moved to the United States seeking better opportunities. On August 15, 1969, Rebecca was born in California, the third daughter in a household already burdened with hardship. When Rebecca was young, her father abandoned the family. Years later, they learned he had died. Lucy suddenly had to shoulder everything, raising children, running a household, and earning money to survive. Life in California was expensive, and though extended family helped, money was always scarce. Eventually, Lucy remarried. She met Pedro Salcedo, who took her daughters in as his own. Pedro provided some stability, but was not wealthy, and life remained modest. Lucy struggled with mental health, withdrawing from the world and leaving her daughters to care for the house and themselves. Inside the home, tension reigned. The sisters competed constantly, clashing rather than supporting each other. Without strong parental guidance, there were no real authority figures. Everyone did as they pleased. As a teenager, Rebecca learned she could do what she wanted when she wanted. Instead of focusing on school, she preferred parties and the company of popular friends. She had natural charm and quickly realized how much attention she could attract, especially from boys. Her looks and bold behavior gave her an edge, and she learned to take advantage of it. There was always someone ready to give her a ride, spend money on her, or offer gifts. By 16, Rebecca made a life-altering decision. She entered into marriage, not for love, but transactional. She received $2,000 for marrying a man who needed a green card, something she could provide as a U.S. citizen. It was the beginning of a pattern, using relationships to gain stability, security, or money. The early 1990s brought major turns. In 1991, Rebecca was arrested for possession of illegal substances suspected for sale. She received a 3-year prison sentence. Around the same time, she became pregnant and admitted she didn't know who the father was. On October 22, 1991, while still in prison, she gave birth to a son. Family took the child in while she served her sentence. Despite the original term, she was released after only a year and a half. None of this was ever revealed to Bruce. He had no idea about the prison time, drugs, or reckless past. By the time she met him, that part of her history was carefully hidden. After prison, Rebecca faced starting over with no job, no education, and a child to raise. But she didn't face it alone. She entered a relationship with a former police officer named Sherry. To those who knew Rebecca, Sherry was her true love. Rebecca even tattooed Sherry's name on her leg as a sign of commitment. For a time, the three lived together as a family. From 1991 to 1994, these were the most stable and genuinely happy years of Rebecca's life. But tragedy struck in 1994. Rebecca's mother, already struggling with mental health, took her own life. The loss devastated Rebecca. Her behavior changed dramatically. She became irritable, aggressive, and unpredictable. She argued with Sherry constantly, returned to partying, and began seeing other people. Eventually, the relationship collapsed. Once again, Rebecca searched for someone new to anchor her life. It was then she encountered Bruce. To Rebecca, Bruce was an opportunity. She recognized his gentle, naive nature immediately. She knew exactly what story to tell, a story that would make him believe she was principled, loyal, and deserving of his love. He was the perfect target, wealthy, inexperienced, and eager to believe. When Bruce bought a house for their future, Rebecca didn't wait for marriage to truly begin. She moved in with her son while Bruce stayed elsewhere until the church wedding she insisted on. The house quickly became a hub of activity. Rebecca invited friends over and threw parties. Men came and went, but when Bruce questioned it, she brushed it off as cousins. He accepted her explanations, blinded by trust. In January 1997, their church wedding finally took place. It was lavish and extravagant, a day where they appeared the perfect couple. But behind the smiles, Rebecca's true feelings were different. At her bachelorette party days before, she reportedly admitted to friends she didn't love Bruce at all. She was only in it for the money. The couple honeymooned in Hawaii. Even then, Rebecca couldn't hide her disdain. She called friends back home, ridiculing Bruce and describing their intimate life in cruel detail. To outsiders, it was shocking. They hoped marriage might change Rebecca, that she might grow into a loyal wife, especially with a devoted man like Bruce. He tried everything to make her happy, remaining kind and loyal. But Rebecca didn't even try to play the part. The facade crumbled quickly. Back from Hawaii, she resumed partying and spending Bruce's money freely. She cheated openly, and he either refused to see it or didn't want to believe it. Bruce increasingly avoided home, retreating to work and leaving Rebecca to her own devices. Within 4 months, The situation was beyond repair. Rebecca began openly talking about divorce. She told friends how much money she expected to walk away with, but miscalculated. Under California law, Bruce's pre-marriage fortune was not subject to division. Still, she pushed ahead, determined to rid herself of him. The first signs of toxicity came in April when police were called after a loud argument at their home. For Bruce, the stress became unbearable. Calm and soft-spoken by nature, he was not prone to anger. But being pushed out of his own house was too much. He moved out and sought legal advice, finally seeing Rebecca was motivated by money, not love. The division of assets was hardly what Rebecca envisioned. Because Bruce had purchased his home and accumulated wealth before marriage, those assets remained his alone. After everything was tallied, only about $5,000 was left to split. For her, it was an insult. But Rebecca wasn't ready to let go. Even after separation, she continued using Bruce's credit cards without his knowledge. Designer clothes, flashy jewelry, expensive dinners, beauty treatments, and nights out with friends, all paid by Bruce. From the outside, her life looked polished, glamorous even. But behind the scenes, it was Bruce's steady income that paid the bills. By this point, Bruce had moved back in with his parents. His lawyer urged him to keep his distance, but Bruce remained hopeful. He believed, against all signs, that the marriage might still be repaired. Rebecca, always calculating, picked up on this and dangled the idea of reconciliation. On Friday morning, July 25, 1997, she called with a suggestion. Maybe they could start over. For Bruce, it was the best news he could imagine. That night, they agreed to meet at the same restaurant where they'd had their first date. He picked her up, and at 9:30 p.m., they arrived. By 10:30 p.m., they were back on the road. At Rebecca's suggestion, they stopped by her uncle's house, a man who had long been a father figure to her. They sat, talked, and everything seemed calm. Around 1 a.m., they said their goodbyes and left. Rebecca was driving when the car pulled into a quiet, isolated stretch of road. She told Bruce she needed to check the tailgate. While he sat in the passenger seat, a shadow appeared. Suddenly, gunshots shattered the silence. Bruce was hit. He scrambled out, desperately trying to run, but another shot struck him in the back. As he collapsed, the killer moved in close and fired again, this time to his head. From a nearby house, a woman named Virginia glimpsed the horror through her window and called police immediately. Officers arrived to find Bruce lying lifeless just feet from his car. Rebecca sat near the hood, claiming she had been struck in the head and knocked unconscious. But something felt wrong. She wasn't shaken or crying. Instead, she calmly explained it must have been a robbery. She said her diamond ring had been stolen. Detectives noticed the details didn't add up. Her purse and phone were untouched inside the car. Bruce's wallet, with cash inside, was still in his pocket. Medical exams revealed no sign of a head injury. When Rebecca spoke to investigators, her focus seemed strangely self-centered. She talked about what she wore, their first date, and the restaurant, details unrelated to Bruce's murder. Detectives were not convinced. Background checks revealed the truth about their marriage. Friends and acquaintances described Rebecca's extravagant spending, infidelity, and obsession with money. Then came the most damning discovery. Just 1 month before Bruce's death, Rebecca had secretly taken out life insurance policies on him, totaling around $1 million. His forged signature was on the paperwork. If Bruce died, Rebecca stood to gain everything: his house, possessions, and the payout. Investigators learned Bruce had no enemies, but witnesses recalled seeing a young Latino man at the crime scene. Police looked into Rebecca's phone records and found a name: Alvaro Casada, Rebecca's cousin, matching the description. The trail came together. Alvaro confessed to being the gunman, admitting he carried out the murder at Rebecca's request. His brother Jose also admitted involvement. Both pointed directly to Rebecca as the mastermind. In June 2000, Rebecca Cleland, along with Alvaro and Jose Quesada, was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The jury found the crime involved special circumstances, financial gain, and lying in wait. Rebecca showed no remorse. She was sentenced in 2003 to life in prison without parole. She remains incarcerated at the California Institution for Women in Corona. Her cousins serve life sentences in California state prisons. For Bruce's parents, the verdict brought justice, but no peace. They had tried to dissuade their son from marrying Rebecca, sensing something was wrong. After the wedding, they watched his spirit fade as he became more unhappy and withdrawn. He eventually confided he planned to divorce, but by then it was too late. Bruce's life was marked by quiet dedication to his studies, career, and loved ones. Known as intelligent, kind, and deeply gentle, his death at the hands of the woman he trusted shocked everyone who knew him. As his father later said, "She planned it from the beginning." Bruce Cleland's story is one of betrayal and tragedy, a reminder of how trust can be weaponized, how greed can twist love into something deadly, and how one man's quiet life was cut short by someone who saw him only as a means to an end. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.